Welcome, everyone, to Strangest Species, Season 2, Episode 20. I'm your host, Mike Davis, here again, back from the islands. Is our co-host, Ethney Davis.
The island.
Well, you were only on one, but there are many.
This is true. The island of Oahu.
Oahu. How was Oahu?
It was great. Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah.
Lincoln was funny to watch. Just loving the waves and getting it just hours and hours of wave smashing. Getting smashed by waves. Yeah, some hike. It was a good quality time with that guy.
Well, awesome.
Yeah.
We missed you last week. Hopefully,
I heard Deanna did a great job.
Hopefully she did an okay job.
We started listening to it.
Yeah, we didn't get very far.
No.
I mean, I've listened to it, obviously.
Well, you were a part of it, but
Correct.
I wanted to hear her once we were starting to listen to it. And then life. It's been a busy, busy weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You'll have to listen to them.
I will. No, I want to.
Because she did a good job.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, I'm trying to think what else. One of our kids ended soccer this week. Another one's almost done. We had
2 Halloween parties and a scary movie night.
And a scary movie night.
Mm-hmm.
More parties next weekend.
Yeah.
All before actual Halloween.
Yeah.
It's a lot of...
Well, Halloween is...
It's a Thursday?
On a Thursday, so I think it's trickier to,
Mm-hmm. But we're running... So we watched... So Ethney doesn't like scary movies, and I do. So we watched... well, she'll only watch one a year with me. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we sneak another one in. But in general... So I have to be very picky about what movies I choose because I only get one shot. But it's also tricky because I have to pick movies that are fairly benign, or Ethney hates them so much that it's not worth watching them and there's no fun for me even.
At the same time, though, I didn't like this one. I would have rather had something, I think, a little more in your face.
Yeah, so we watched a movie that obviously we'd never seen before called Dark Water. Not to be confused with Dark Waters, which is not a horror movie, starring Mark Ruffalo. So this one was it intrigued me because it was an adaptation of a Japanese short story written by the same author who wrote The Ring. And The Ring, I think, is one of the greatest horror movies of all time. And so I was intrigued. So I chose it. But it wasn't really scary at all. It was just tense and sad.
Well, and psychologically, a lot. Like...
Yeah, it dealt with abandonment and not child abuse in the sense of like beating children, but...
I mean, the mom.
That's true.
Yeah.
She was super on drugs.
Yeah. Strung out.
Very mean to her child. So anyways, it was... there were moments that... I don't know if scary would ever be the right word.
There was a couple jump scares, and there was a part where I was a little bit edgy, but I didn't like it.
There was one jump scare that you actually like screamed, but it was just the janitor. Like it wasn't an actual. Like,
well, that's the point of the jump scares. It's who's going to be behind you, right? It doesn't matter. Right,
but I'm saying it wasn't like an actual bad creature to go along with the jump scare or a ghost or anything. And they were actually, spoiler alert: the movie's 19 years old, so I feel like I can spoil it. There wasn't really any ghoul or
not at all.
Ghost or gremlin or demon or...
there was definitely a ghost.
That's true. There was a ghost.
Lingering, but yeah.
But anyway. No scary ghost. How about that? But it was kind of sad. Like
she was kind of scary.
I don't think she was scary. Like I don't think that was...
kill someone.
Yeah. But it didn't come off to me like a horror movie. It came off to me like a...
Sure. I don't care what genre.
But it was generally quite sad too. Like when it ended, you're like, that was heavy.
Yeah.
That was heavy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't my favorite.
No.
Either.
Yeah. So, anyway.
We also watched though with our daughter, with Vienna, who recorded last week.
Death Becomes
Her.
Yeah, that one was funny. I hadn't remembered the story of that one at all.
I just remember being a kid watching it with, and it's not a horror, but it's a macabre comedy with Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn and why can't I think of his name right now? From Die Hard and Bruce Willis.
Oh, Bruce Willis, yeah.
And it was pretty funny. Our daughter Vienna was quite
kept looking at us like
what in the world is
weirdest?
this?
But the early 90s shows were
I was
weird.
like, this is 90s movies,
Yeah,
and it's amazing
straight
and
up
awesome.
weird. Amazing and awesome. Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Amazing and awesome are strong words. Yeah, but it was good. It was definitely funny to be reminded of that.
Too much of an endorsement, huh?
Yeah. Siskel and Ebert gives it 2 thumbs up.
That's right. So
Anyway.
Vienna and I still want to watch Beetlejuice at some point before Halloween.
Want to too.
So I think we'll have to do that.
Yeah, I want to too, for sure.
Alrighty. So. Well, you missed out on a riveting conversation about dangerous urban exploration. So you'll have to go and listen to the episode.
Well, we started, like I said, I knew it was about urban exploration, but didn't get very far into that.
Did not get very far.
All right.
So today,
what are we going to talk about?
What do you think we should talk about?
Cool stuff that washes up on beaches.
Cool stuff that washes up on beaches will not be part of today's conversation.
That's too bad.
Unless it comes up totally organically.
Yeah.
On some side story.
No, I think there's probably really cool things out there that wash up on beaches that also make me think, how did they get in there? And what were, essentially humans doing to have them show up on the beach? Because it's not going to come from animals, really. I mean, maybe like an animal will wash up on the beach. But
of a whale that washed up on a beach in Oregon in the early 80s or so, I think, that I've wanted to do an episode on, but there just isn't enough there for a full episode. But the town decided it was too big. It was stinking up the place.
Oh, he was dead?
Yeah.
It was a dead, washed up whale.
Correct.
Okay.
And they couldn't just, push him back into the ocean. Yeah. So guess what they decided to do?
Cut him up into pieces and throw him into the...
It's close. They strapped him full of dynamite and blew him up. But it went poorly because it shot, as one would, dead whale all over the place.
Yeah.
And then they had more of a mess.
That's a really...
So if you ever want to look up a funny story, that's a good one.
It's a really bad idea.
But not enough to talk an hour about.
45 minutes.
Or 45 minutes.
Oh, darn.
It was more like a 15-minute conversation. I mean, we just did it in a minute, so...
Yeah, sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah. So today we are going to go to Canada.
Yay!
Because Canada is the home for all things amazing and equitable and happy. Mm-hmm. And they're just the most progressive country in the world.
Are they really?
I don't know.
Oh, I don't think so.
So we're going to go back to the 1960s, 50s and 60s. So, coming off of World War II, most Western countries were in this unique political climate. And Canada was very much the same way. And what that climate was a fear of the Soviet Union, and espionage.
Espionage is spies?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So worried about spies from the Soviet Union infiltrating government ranks, government jobs, things like that.
That was very much a thing.
And so the governments decided, they did lots of different things, but they needed to find ways to root out potential spies in the government. Mm-hmm. And there's lots of the Red Scare, McCarthyism, and there's all sorts of, historical big takeaways from this. But today we're going to talk about a very, very specific operation in Canada to root out potential Russian spies.
Okay.
Or Soviet spies, I guess is a better way to say it. And that was the introduction of a machine called the fruit machine.
The fruit machine?
The fruit machine.
Like Fruit?
Correct.
Oh. Okay.
Now, on first thought, what do you think the fruit machine did or does? Did. It no longer exists.
Well, I was hoping that the fruit machine was like an acronym and it was like FRU with a double dot on the UT, like some sort of acronym that meant something.
That would be much cooler.
Yeah.
Well, not cooler, but it would open up more possibilities for us. But no,
so
it's the actual word fruit.
Machine. Maybe like when you say the word fruits of our labors, like maybe the evidence of who they are based on what they do machine.
Kind of. Not wrong, but not correct.
Okay, I have no idea. Literally no
What
clue.
other terms?
Like a fruit cake?
Like a fruit cake, but not like a fruit cake in the wintertime.
No, like sometimes I might say like the kids are being such fruit cakes. Like they're doing weird, silly things and being kind of a little bit loopy, a little bit crazy.
So, I mean, in the ballpark.
I have no idea.
Okay, well let's talk about it, and then we'll see. So, in the 1950s and 60s in Canada, it was illegal to be homosexual.
Okay.
Do you have any clearer reference on the term fruit as after that statement?
Like procreation?
No. Okay, we'll get there.
Like the fruit of our loom is like...
No, it's a derogatory term for gay men to be fruits.
Oh.
You ever heard that term?
Maybe. I mean, I don't... It's not like at all what would come to my mind.
Interesting. It definitely is familiar to me. I guess
okay. I mean,
like, oh, you fruit.
Now that you say that, I can hear it, but I...
Right. No. Not something we obviously use or you would use, but in context. So like I said, it was illegal to be homosexual in Canada at the time. And because of this, gay members of society were oftentimes viewed as being morally weak.
Okay.
Thus, susceptible to the persuasive eye of the Soviet Union.
This is the most...
In other words,
the most illogical
if you
thing.
were gay, you were more likely to be a Soviet spy because you were morally weak across the board.
Oh, this is extremely like unethical or
very unethical.
I don't even know. Like the logic is so unsound, so bizarre.
So bizarre.
Okay.
And so there was a belief that gay men and women posed a legit national security risk.
Is this just my country, or is this like other countries too? Like, are we we usually just kind of follow in other people's footsteps.
I know, but this one, you guys are the trailblazers.
We're the trailblazers. No wonder it doesn't exist anymore.
To my knowledge, you're the only ones with a fruit machine.
Oh my gosh, this is like embarrassing.
Yes.
Okay.
But there were other similar tactics used in the U.S. and U.K.
Interesting.
But I'm not sure if anyone else had this specific tactic.
I don't even know if I want to know.
Well, you're gonna know.
Thank you.
So, yeah. So they designed this machine.
Is this like? So we have like the, I don't know, Secret Services. Like, who is designing this machine? Who are the people that think they are a national security risk and then think of these ideas? Like, as some department of the government?
The Department of National Defense and the good old RCMP.
Oh, okay. So there is like an actual federal like agency. This is like a
fully funded, stamped, approved project.
This is.
If you're not familiar with what the RCMP is, fill us in, Ethney.
Oh, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. It's like the police force of Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're the ones that you would stereotypically see like on films and shows.
Yeah, with
the red and the funny pants and the horses. But they really are legit security
for sure.
unit.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so bizarre and so terrible. The sound of it, I'm like, this is so dumb.
So the project was led by Dr. Robert Wake. He was a university professor and a clinical psychologist. I'm not sure what university he was in, but I assume somewhere out east.
I would assume so.
And the fruit machine was one part of a broader campaign known as the Gay Purge. which is a pretty boring name. I think you can come with something better than that.
I mean, I feel
So
like
if
it's
this
just
makes you
straight up
feel
mean.
better, Dr. Wake did go down to the US of A to study for about a year before he developed his machine.
I don't know if none of it makes me feel better. Just none of it.
And so he came down here, he studied, then he designed this machine that was able, according to him, to detect gayness.
Straight up crazy.
Straight up crazy. So the way it worked, it was similar to a dental chair.
Okay.
Where people would come and sit down, and there was a big screen.
Did they knew that what they were coming in for?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
So sometimes it was used on new hires, like people who were applicants.
Mm-hmm.
So it was part of their clearance and
Okay.
application process. Other times it was used, more often I think it was used for actual employees who were already employed by the government. It was just kind of this random, like, hey, you're going to take this assessment kind of thing.
Okay.
So you sat in this big chair. There was a screen in front of you, and they hooked you up to all sorts of
Like electrodes,
prodders, all sorts of things, probes.
This sounds scary.
Sounds like it's straight out of A Clockwork Orange.
Literally.
And on this screen, it would flick through various photos,
Okay.
predominantly happy photos, nature, rivers, mountains, butterflies.
Okay.
But every so often, super quickly, it would throw in
Subliminally.
some kind of lewd image. Big muscular guy with no shirt on. Sometimes very risque photos.
Mm-hmm.
And what the point was to measure a physiological response to these images as they subconsciously got displayed. So they would look for pupil dilation, a change in heart rate, or a change in perspiration. And because all of these things were believed to be associated with arousal.
Okay.
So, what do you think so far of this machine?
Oh, it's very subjective.
Very subjective. So, do you think it's very accurate?
No.
No. Why not?
'Cause
What
it's so-
flaws do you see in the fruit machine?
It's just so open-ended. It's like, first of all, like, why does pupil dilation mean that you're aroused? It's a weird, and even then, it's
But
like,
it doesn't. But at the time,
right?
that was the belief, right? So, but can imagine, let's say it's you, and you're working for,
Whatever.
yeah, some government agency. And they're like, hey, Ethney, you're going to take this test today. Everyone's taking this test. Don't worry about it. And you're like, okay. So they strap you into a chair, like a dental chair.
Right.
So one, what's your heart rate going to be like?
Already, like, through the roof. Like,
Yeah, you're
what
like,
is happening?
what is
This
happening?
is the weirdest thing ever.
And then they're flipping these pictures. And you're like, this is bizarre. So let's say you are a straight, normal mom with kids, and all of a sudden you think you see some super inappropriate picture flip through.
I would be like,
Yeah. What's going to happen to your eyeballs?
probably dilate.
They're probably
going
going
to
to
move a
dilate.
little and
Yeah.
kind of take it back. I'll be taking
You're going to be
back.
like,
I don't know how to.
I'm nervous. This is weird. Your heart rate's probably going to increase. Your pupils are probably going to dilate. Let's say you're an actual gay man or lesbian woman, and that happens. Same thing's probably going to happen. So the actual test is pretty worthless.
Yeah, it's super subjective. Like, it's just super open-ended. Like, very dumb.
Very dumb.
Very dumb.
Very not scientific.
It's like when you took that, I don't know if you were taking a course, but you were what do they call them when you work at the school? Your job at the school?
I've worked like the paraeducator.
A paraeducator. And remember, didn't they do like some sort of class on like autistic food. Kids that with autism. No, wait, hold on. What was it? Generally, foods, if I remember correctly, that autistic kids might like.
Right. So it was. We'd have a week of Autism Awareness Week at the elementary school, but every day in the staff lounge, they would have some kind of food or treat that autistic children
generally
liked. And they would be like, one day was like peanut M&Ms, and one day was like Cheetos. And I was like, I mean, yes, you will capture all the autistic kids and everyone else in this school with these foods.
I was thinking like every one of my kids loves all those foods.
Yeah, every American loves these foods.
So it was just when he would come home and tell me that, it was like, so they're claiming that generally speaking, autistic children like these foods, but other kids don't?
Yeah. Like, I'm not sure what the point was. It's
anyway, so this is how I feel like this test is. Like,
it's very spot on.
Super just no.
It's
just
like,
no.
Yep. You'll probably get some gay people's heart rate to go up. And a lot of straight people.
Straight people and all the things. All things.
In the 1960s, people being shown those kind of photos, probably going to get a response.
Yeah.
Especially at work.
I don't know how you couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
interesting.
But that was the, so what do you think the outcome of said tests were?
That every single person was considered gay, if that's the statistical evidence that they're looking for.
So, and I assume that it wasn't just whether you get a change. It was probably, like, okay, here's our standard heart rate change when shown said images. To be gay, you've got to be 2 standard deviations above the curve or something like that, right? But you're going to get responses. You're going to get people who test as positive, whether they are or they aren't.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's because it's not a very scientific.
Very many false positives.
And by not very scientific, I mean not scientific at all.
Right. Very many false positives.
Yeah. And so, lo and behold, that's what happened.
I mean, shocking.
Mm-hmm. And so
I can't even believe this came into existence. It's just
so you got this in the Canadian government.
Yeah.
You got this in the military. You got this in law enforcement. And so across the board, most people had no idea why they were being tested.
Right.
They were just told it was a routine health or psychological exam. But like I said, there were, like you correctly assumed, there were many, many, many flaws. And so they had lots and lots of people who tested positive. Now, guess how many people were investigated using this machine?
I mean, over the course of how long? I mean,
so it's weird. I'll say a decade. So over a decade, it was... And I don't know if this is how many people who were investigated or were actually removed from their jobs, but we'll say investigated, but about 9,000 Canadians.
Wow.
Over about 10 years. Now, the actual fruit machine was not officially
like approved
or unapproved, taken off the market until 1990.
Whoa.
Now, I'm not sure how frequently it was being used.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
It became decriminalized to be a homosexual in Canada in 1969.
But they still had the fruit.
But they still had the fruit machine somewhere in a closet, which is not a pun that I was going for, until 1990.
Oh my god.
When it officially was removed and gotten rid of. So, but there were a lot of real life serious ramifications.
Oh, I would assume so.
So a lot of people lost their jobs.
That's so sad.
And they would be fired for no reason, right?
Literally, like,
and everyone knows it's impossible to get fired from a government job.
I mean, that is kind of the trope, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You can do
nothing.
You can, like, try to do the opposite of what your job is, and you're still not going to get fired.
Right.
So a lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of them were just denied promotions. Like, they were never allowed to get any higher in their jobs because of it.
That's terrible.
Yeah. What were some of the other ones? Security clearances were revoked. And so there's just a lot of issues. Plus, if it ever came out as to why.
Did they? That's what I was going to say next. Did they ever tell them why?
I'm not sure. And I don't believe that they were ever told why. But for those who really were gay, well, I take that back. They must have known to a degree, because for some who really were gay, it forced them out of the closet in a time when they weren't ready and society wasn't, nearly like what it is today. And so you had, ruined marriages, ruined families, loss of friends, like lots and lots of hardships that way. And then for those who obviously weren't gay but were tested as that, then yeah, I mean, it's like, why am I being fired? Why am I never getting promoted? Those kind of things, why can my career not advance? That's what I'm looking for. So it became kind of a big issue. Well, not obviously it became a big issue, but there was some real downstream consequences.
That's a big issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, this is ridiculous.
The RCMP started surveying bars that they suspected gay people would be at to check them out to see if they were security risks.
This is so weird. Okay.
Yeah.
So interesting. I mean, they're just like undercover, just watching them at bars doing legal stuff.
I hope they're undercover because they stand out really bad if they're not undercover.
But even if you aren't undercover, it's not like these people would be doing anything wrong, right? I mean, like, I don't know. It's so interesting. Huh. Yeah. This is sound science right here.
The soundest.
Oh, yeah.
Of all science.
Of all science. I mean, really.
So in 2017, Prime Minister Trudeau, which is kind of funny.
No, it's not funny.
Well, it is funny because
terrible.
His dad was Prime Minister when all this was going on the other end.
I think I'm in a dry heave.
Ethney doesn't like Prime Minister Trudeau.
I do not.
But she's from Alberta, so that makes sense.
It does make sense.
So he did form an official apology from the Canadian government, and I do believe there was a class action lawsuit for like $150 million that they paid out to survivors and those. So the government has done some to kind of
just make amends,
but it's hard to make amends for a career, 40 years later.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's just kind of bizarre.
Down, just kind of done at that point.
Yeah.
I wonder if the U.S. had a similar machine.
I wonder. Yeah, I mean, like, I just feel like, I mean, they had to have not said anything in the moment why they were letting you go or not promoting you or whatever. They must have not said anything as to why. Because don't you think people would start just making a scene out of the whole thing?
Yeah, and if you knew what you were getting into before you got in there, if all of a sudden, let's say it started in 1960, and by 1965. Word on the street is if you get strapped to the dental chair, it's a gay test. Like, you're just gonna be that much more on edge and paranoid and
right. But I mean, don't you think people would be? They must have not told them, like
what the results were. Well, you're right.
No, or like the reason for they got fired. Like they must have just said,
"We're cutting this agency."
Or did they actually say, like, we think you're a spy?
No, I don't think they told them that. And some people, which would make it even more challenging, didn't get fired, but then they were under like heavy surveillance the rest of their career, because it's like, maybe they are.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like people should start getting up in arms about it. That's what I'm thinking. Like, they must have never, ever said any reason why, which again, how do you just let someone go? Like under what ground? I want to know like what grounds they were letting people go or holding people back, or, you know, it just seems.
My guess is it would be under not real grounds, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard, I guess, not to get promotions, especially in the government, when it's all like, well, you've been here this long. It doesn't matter if you're good at your job or not. You now get moved up the ladder.
I just don't know how people weren't outraged, you know? Like, at what point did it come out that this was all just what was happening?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, when that, if it was something that was turned down because of outrage, or if it was something that just turned down because people, the government on its own, just, you know, just kind of slowly stopped using it. And it wasn't until later that it even came out in
but
retrospect.
They only really used it consistently for about a decade.
Yeah.
And then they kind of maybe learned more real science.
One would hope so.
Yeah. Interesting.
I wonder too, like, I want to do an episode sometime on essentially like, here's why you can't trust your government.
Yeah. I would love that one.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many.
Oh, so many.
Especially like CIA operations where they do things to the U.S. population without telling them that they're doing it, just to, you know, run experiments or see what's happening. You know, MK Ultra, or
I'm not going to know any of these by name,
right?
But
there's one in San Francisco where they spread poisonous gas, you know, all over to test them. The Tuskegee medical experiments where they gave black men syphilis for years and wouldn't even treat them after there was a treatment because they wanted to see what the long-term effects would be.
Which is terrible.
Which is why people like me really had an issue when it was like, hey, the government saying COVID didn't come from China. It's like, well, it's funny because we fund research in the one city where it came from.
Right.
Like, that's weird.
Right.
Like, why should I trust you?
Why? Yeah. There's a lot of evidence that I shouldn't trust you.
Yeah. There's a new book. I can't remember the author. Pretty dang cool book. It goes through 4 major cases where the American Pediatric Association, anyways,
that sounds right,
where they've been hugely wrong on things and caused major problems and then gone back. And the really funny thing is most of the time there's not really any clinical evidence for the things they go with, but because they go with it, everyone else says, yeah, we should do it. Like back in 60s, 70s, 80s, I don't remember when it was. And they told everyone, your baby should sleep on their stomachs.
Oh, I remember that.
And then they started massively dying. And then it's like, oh, just kidding. We shouldn't put them on their stomachs.
They should sleep on their backs.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, why did we tell them? I don't know. It's just what we came up with, you know?
There had to have been some sort of scientific study, right?
And I'm sure there's some kind of scientific leanings or anything, but it's not like this overwhelming.
Right.
You know, they're not.
So weird.
They don't have these answers that are so, you know, gold standard scientifically everything. It's just, but that's the way that as citizens we take it because we trust organizations like that, you know, and obviously the government's the same way, but we can't trust the government, Ethney.
Well, you just definitely need to think.
I trust my local government.
But I think you just need to think a lot of these things through, like for yourself and not just drink it, right? You got to really like.
Right. But it makes me think with this in particular, back in the 60s and stuff. So they felt that homosexuals would be morally weak, thus open to becoming spies. I wonder what other groups of people they
so many
targeted or the rationale of why, and if they came up with maybe not a physical machine, but other ways to kind of rat out or find people who could be spies. It's like the Salem witch trials or witch hunt, but on a national scale.
Right. Like paranoia.
Yeah. But you would be surprised that this happened in Canada.
I mean, I don't know. I guess so. It kind of is like, again, kind of embarrassing and like just so unsound. It's like, how do you even, I don't know.
It's not Canadian.
No, it's really not. It's really, really not. It's just weird.
I wonder if there's a fruit machine in a museum anywhere.
Oh, yeah. Did you happen to see like an actual image of a fruit machine?
Nope.
Very
It was actually kind of hard to find a lot of information on it.
Oh, yeah.
There are a couple documentaries that have been made back in 2018 and some other ones that are fairly, I think, large and robust. I didn't have the time to watch them. I probably could have found a lot more stuff and heard. I know a lot of them do a lot of interviews with people who actually experienced it and stuff like that.
Tested.
But as far as just general information, there wasn't a lot. I mean, there were a lot of sites on it, but they all kind of said the same small little thing. Yeah. And so it was kind of a tough, but it was such a fascinating.
Yes.
That I was like, okay. And it's Canadian, so I have to tell Ethney.
Oh, and it's Canadian. You have to tell me and the whole world. You have to make fun of.
I'm not making fun of
Canada, right?
No, the point's not to make fun of. It's to educate, inform.
Right. I just feel like
we're really bad lately at looking at ugly parts of our past and just saying, we're going to sweep that away.
Are we?
I feel so, society.
Oh. I don't know. I feel like we're getting better at owning and accepting things from our past.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be wrong, but
I'm sure we're both right, depending on what we're talking about.
Yeah, what we're thinking about.
Yeah.
So.
But I think it's important to look at those ugly blemishes and say,
we'll learn from them and realize like we were idiots.
We're off the mark there.
Yeah.
You know, we should have been looking at this group instead. They were the spies.
Yes. I'm sure there's only one particular group that were spies. Only one.
Yeah. There was.
32-year-old, like very specific. They're the only ones.
Well, the problem is now we have the same problem with the Chinese. There's you hear these stories of people that work their way up into universities and then all of a sudden disappear back to China with all their research and no one ever hears from them again.
Yeah.
That's a little sus. Now we need a machine to vet them.
The information stealers?
Yeah, I don't know.
The information stealers. Yeah, it sounds like embarrassing, and I'm glad no other countries joined in, and that we hopefully only did this really for a decade, and then we realized the fault of our
ways.
Idea. Yeah,
I wonder what the U.S. did. Because it says that the U.S. and the U.K. employed similar tactics. And I don't know if that means specifically to the homosexual community or just similar tactics across the board looking for Soviet spies.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. It's definitely, definitely weird.
Definitely weird.
Yeah, for sure. So.
And then I'm kind of sad that it gets tied in with dentistry, using a dental chair. They should use a barber chair.
Well, barber chairs and dental chairs are very similar.
Very similar.
You could have prefaced it like a barber chair.
Well, but all the information I got was dental chair.
But you could have.
I could have.
You could have taken your own spin on it.
But I don't want to be giving out misinformation here.
Well, tattoo artists love dental chairs.
They do. I, as a dentist, love dental chairs.
Well, you should. Mm-hmm. But I mean, tattoo artists love them. So, didn't you actually have someone buy one or want one or ask about old ones or something?
Seems vaguely familiar.
And you're like, well, what do you want it for? Maybe it was somebody. And you're like, oh, because I'm a tattoo artist. And you're like, I'm still not connecting the dots. Like, I don't know anything about tattoos. Forgive me. But I'm sure other people who have tattoos are like, oh, I know why they want it.
The mobility is amazing.
Yeah. And so even then when you said like, oh, there's a tattoo artist, I'm like, I still don't get why they are interested in a dental chair. It just seems weird.
They're going to tattoo people's teeth.
It's not a thing.
I do have a few patients with in the mouth tattoos.
Oh, also like on the tooth tattoos.
Well, that's true. But those are made
like in
via
a crown.
The lab.
Yeah, via lab. It's not an actual tooth tattoo, but it is permanently on there.
It is. I can think of one patient with a heart.
In the mouth tattoos, though, like in your cheek or whatever?
Like in your lower lip, usually.
Why would you want that?
Because you were drunk one day. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. Well, that's another topic, is weird places for tattoos.
That is a topic we will never cover, but it is a fabulous 20 minutes on the internet looking at ugly tattoos.
I think Not even like I was talking location,
Sure.
but even the designs. Some of them I'm like, what were you thinking? You want this forever? Okay.
Yeah, there's bad tattoos that are done well, and there's bad tattoos that are also done really poorly.
And there are really amazingly talented.
Yeah.
Like
my brother's tattoos are all beautiful.
Right. So this is no knock on anything. It's just like there are some really bad tattoos.
You get what you pay for, like everything else in life.
Well, but I mean, I think sometimes people want that tattoo. And I wonder as an artist, they're like...
That's what I'm saying, though. There's people that want...
I don't really want to do that tattoo.
Right. You're like, this is a bad idea, but a bad idea can still be done artistically well. Sure. Or a bad idea can be done artistically really poorly. And then it's a double whammy.
And those double whammies, they're the funnest ones
like, you want a troll on your nipple? Well, it could be a good-looking troll or a bad-looking troll.
But at least you have a troll nipple.
But a troll nipple, either way.
Oh, man. So bad. Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
So, well, everyone, I apologize, but we're kind of a short episode.
That's okay.
It's been a really busy weekend around here. So I will come up with... I've got a couple ideas on the wings for these next couple weeks. So we'll get back after it hard next week. But until then, have a wonderful week, and we will talk to you later. Anything you want to say, Ethney, before we're out of here?
Ciao.
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 That's a good way to end it.
All right.
All right, everyone. Have a wonderful week. Bye.